Miss Marvel's marketing did it no favors. Before even a millisecond of footage was shown to fans, it carried the burden of association with the MCU's most universally derided film. Then the trailer dropped, and everyone's worst fears seemed confirmed. Miss Marvel appeared to embody all the worst qualities of the MCU's newest wave, wrapped into one neat, fluffy filler series on Disney+. It was going to be another mediocre, factory-made, woke mess. The reason Phase 4 has been divisive is not because MCU fans are incapable of appreciating stories set around characters of diverse backgrounds. Rather, it's that fans had come to expect a unique quality of storytelling from Marvel Studios. Audiences want action, well-written scripts with snappy one-liners that are clever, not corny. Plots with a good balance of drama and comedy. Enough of the real to keep things relatable, and enough of the absurd to keep things fun. Well-written characters are ones who grow and change and make mistakes, while also inspiring us to improve. Life lessons in these movies should be subtle yet clear. They should make the viewer think, but not too much to the point of preaching, which overshadows entertainment value. One of the main reasons for the MCU's phenomenal success is that these elements were consistently well-balanced across its many films. But today, in Disney's era of year-round content, a growing number of fans feel that Marvel Studios has abandoned these core strengths in favor of pushing a blatantly woke political and social agenda, what some call the message. I'm not here today to argue that Miss Marvel does not pursue such an agenda. The entire premise of the character is in fact based around representation. Kamala Khan is the daughter of a Pakistani immigrant family. The show deals heavily with her family's history, while also offering some not-so-subtle commentary on what it means to be a Muslim in America. The trailer was sure to emphasize these elements, while also making it clear that the show would follow a kid-centric aesthetic, with a high school setting and teen drama vibe. On paper, this show definitely sounds like a mess. Some fans and critics were even calling to boycott the show entirely, as it seemed to be a dramatic departure from what made the MCU so popular. But I'm here to argue that while the show is far from perfect, it is surprisingly charming and fun, and dare I say it, in one of Phase 4's biggest plot twists yet, Miss Marvel actually ended up kind of good. Despite what my title implies, Miss Marvel is indeed a show that pushes the message, but it does so in a pleasantly unobnoxious manner, to the point that I would actually argue that calling the show woke is an exaggeration. It's important to define what I mean by woke in order for my argument here to make sense. To illustrate my point, let's look at the movie Captain Marvel. That film centers around an overpowered female superhero. She has zero flaws, zero personality, zero development. We don't see Brie Larson's Captain Marvel master her powers over the course of her origin. We don't even see her make any mistakes in pursuit of her growth. She's neither likable nor complex. Her story establishes that she's Kree and presents the backbone of an interesting conflict plot-wise, but it ultimately fails to land due to a lack of relatable characteristics in Brie Larson, aside from her being female. To construct a character out of sheer identity misses the point of storytelling to begin with. Tony Stark went from being an egotistical billionaire with a power complex to literally sacrificing himself in the fight to save the universe. That story is not less or more impactful because he's a white male. It's impactful because it's well written and follows a logical evolution. These same storytelling laws can and should be applied to every character in every type of story. A defining characteristic of wokeness in my mind is when good writing is thrown out the window in favor of a caricature. This is the real reason wokeness is cancer to good storytelling. Wokeness is when arbitrary exterior traits are emphasized over consequential internal characterization, which has been the bedrock of good storytelling for thousands of years. From a character perspective at least, Miss Marvel is more to the tune of Iron Man than she is to the tune of Captain Marvel, because despite the fact that the show emphasizes her Pakistani Muslim background, it is not Kamala Khan's main defining characteristic. She doesn't run around yelling about how Muslim or Pakistani she is as she punches the bad guys. Even Moon Knight fell into this trap by the end. Kamala's background is important to the growth of her character, and that's it. It even presents itself in the form of conflict, like when Kamala sneaks out to go to Avengers Con, directly against the wishes of her strict immigrant parents. We see the hurt on her parents' faces after she sneaks out, which is a direct consequence of Kamala's actions. This scene showcases the main character's desires, but also her flaws, since her desire is in direct opposition to the desires of her parents, and her choice compromises her loyalty to her family. This is well written because her parents actually do mean well. They just want the best for their daughter, and they are depicted as such by the show's writers. That's not to say the show's writing is perfect, however. It has plenty of cringe and some questionable story beats. The show's quality definitely takes a bit of a dip around the midpoint too, but overall I really appreciated that it wasn't afraid to show Kamala's flawed decision-making and the emotional consequences of her actions from her family's perspective as well. Kamala, being a rebellious teenage girl in a strict immigrant household, is incredibly relatable to millions of people. It might have been tempting for the dialogue to highlight her immigrant background superficially while avoiding that inherent complexity. The show rightly chooses to make this background impactful to the story while mostly avoiding obnoxious virtue signaling. Kamala wants to grow up and be independent, but her parents have trouble letting go of their baby girl. This is actually relatable to people of all backgrounds, when it's boiled down to that core premise. Again, just because the show is about a Pakistani Muslim female does not make it woke. To me, the role of Islam in Ms. Marvel is similar to that of Christianity in Daredevil. It's maybe emphasized a little more here, but just like in Daredevil, the religious component serves the character's development. It creates a center point for the character's morality, and it aids the internal conflict of the character as a result. If something serves the conflict, story, or character, I find it really difficult to call it woke. It's only woke if it doesn't have a reason to be there. Episode 5 embodies what I mean. You might not like the creative decision to focus the story on a real historical event, but I found this episode to have some of the strongest writing and filmmaking in the entire series. That episode took itself a little more seriously, and it had some real tension. It twisted into Kamala's present-day storyline in what I thought was an interesting manner. I'm generally with the anti-woke crowd when it comes to modern entertainment, but if simply setting an episode of TV in Pakistan during a real historical event offends you, I don't know what to say. The religious and immigrant elements of the story exist to serve the family dynamic, which is crucial to Kamala's character development even before she gets her powers. This is another thing that I really liked about the show. It's focused. It doesn't force Kamala to save the universe by the end or devolve into a CGI fest like Marvel finales tend to do. It's simply her origin story, and it's a real origin story, which has become a rarity for new MCU characters, who we tend to see already in action during the first appearance. This show explains Kamala's background. It shows her getting her powers, introduces her supporting cast, and that's really it. I did feel that the finale was a little stupid. The TikTok girl literally calls on her followers to incite violence against a law enforcement operation and nobody gets in trouble. But overall, the arc of the show is very strong. It mostly sticks to landing, and it really does make me excited to see these characters again in the future. I also thought the show was well-paced and well-made. One can disagree with some storytelling decisions, but the show has zero filler, and the plot moves forward at an acceptable pace. The filmmaking style is quirky and confident, creatively making use of on-location filming in Jersey City. It plays with some cool editing tricks, like text messages lighting up practically in the environment or background of a shot. It's clear that the team behind this show had a very distinct style they were going for, and I think they nailed it. I haven't even mentioned that the cast is phenomenal. Iman Vellani is perfect for the role. She has just the right amount of charm, innocence, shyness, and confidence. She also seems to be a Marvel superfan, which means that the future of the character is going to be in good hands. Zanabia Shroff, as Kamala's mother, also does a great job. I particularly liked how the family dynamic switched up when Kamala's grandmother entered the picture, and we saw some parallels between Kamala and her mom and Kamala's grandma. Kamala's best friend, Discount Tom Holland, also did a great job, and the chemistry between him and Iman Vellani is perfect. Now, don't get me wrong, Ms. Marvel itself is far from perfect. There is admittedly some bad writing. Cringy moments and poorly written dialogue can permeate through an otherwise smooth execution. But ultimately, I think it's important to remember that this is meant as a kids' show, and with that in mind, it holds up surprisingly well for general audiences. The show isn't among the greatest of Marvel properties, but it's not among the worst either. It's genuinely leagues better than Captain Marvel. And considering that this show's marketing legitimately made it seem like it would be the worst Marvel project of all time, I consider that an achievement. Overall, this is a fun and exciting story that, if nothing else, has made me intrigued about the future of Kamala Khan's story.